the moment I received the national team jersey, I remember I called my parents. I was like, "You have to come and see me. Like, I've got the national team jersey, and like, it feels so amazing. I'm going to be playing for the country. You have no idea what it feels like. You have to come and see me. You have to come and see me in the national team jersey." And I made it to the U19 Delhi state team, being an 11-year-old. The only thing that I would always hear is like, there's no point. You're wasting your time. It just gets so difficult when you have people constantly telling you and giving you reasons of why you shouldn't do it instead of telling you why you should actually take it.
What's up people, and welcome back to another video. This is the first part of a Tiki-Taka episode that I did with Dalima Chibber, the former captain of the Indian national team, who is capable of doing things like this on the football pitch. Now, having played for India at all the different age groups up until the senior team, Dalima is now playing university football in Canada for the Manitoba Bisons, something similar to what Keane Lewis also did. And if you're interested to know about his journey, then I'll link that video at the end of this one. In this part of the episode, Dalima talks about her journey into football, especially in a country like India with all the challenges involved, what it felt like to play for her country, what it felt like to captain the country, and much more. So make sure you watch until the end of this video. If you're new around here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You'd be an absolute legend because I'm trying to reach 200 subscribers as soon as possible. Also, don't forget to tap the bell icon so that you get a notification when I post the second part of this video. If you want to get involved, then use the comment section below to let me know your suggestions, to let me know your feedback, or if you have any questions to ask. Also, don't forget to like the video and share it to anyone who you think would benefit from watching this video. Don't forget to follow Dalima on all her socials. The links will be in the description. Welcome to Tiki-Taka, the series where you tell the world your story. And in this series, we have different sections, and each section is called something football related. So the first section is called Back Pass. And in this section, we take it back to how it all started for you. And my first question to you in this section is, in a country where it is so difficult for a woman to make a career in football, how did football start for you?
So football for me did not start football at all. I started into track and field. I used to go to the field, and my father has been my coach all along, and he used to train me in like track and field events, and I used to just be running around the football field when I saw boys playing football. And my father used to have a club team, an academy team for boys and girls both. There used to be hardly any girls who used to play. And I just used to see boys play football. I just started it out for fun. That's how it just became a regular thing of just having fun. And it all started as a hobby with track and field. After that, I remember when my sister, who also used to play, was trying out for the Delhi state team for the national school games, and it was the U19 category. And I accompanied my father for the trials along with my sister one day, and I was just playing on the track and field track. I was just juggling the ball around with my father, and I was just kicking the ball when the coach asked me to come in and play. And my father was like, "No, I'm not sending my daughter because she's only 11 years old and it's a U19 category." And the coach was like, "No, nothing will happen." Then my father was like, "No, she can get hurt." And then the coach was like, "It's okay. Nothing will happen. Just send her in. Let's just see how it works out. And if nothing happens, she'll just be practicing football, and that's fine by me. So just send her in." And then my father sent me in, and then the coach asked my father to get me every day to play with the girls. And then it just became a regular thing, and I don't even know how. I was just playing and having fun, and I made it to the U19 Delhi state team, and that was my first ever tournament, being an 11-year-old. And then I remember we had traveled to Mumbai for national school games, and my first ever national championship was with my sister. So that was good because that was the first time I was being exposed to an atmosphere like that. And I remember the coach put me in the first match in the first 11, and then I was just 11-year-old and I didn't know what to do, and I was standing in the middle of the field. And that's how it all started, like with that thrill and like with watching a lot of matches and with watching a lot of women footballers playing, I guess. Then I was like, I wanted to see more and I wanted to try out more. And then slowly and gradually I played the U14. And then I from U19 I went to play the U14, which was kind of weird, but like that's how it all began. And then I made it to like the U14 national team, and then the U16, U19 national team. I was the captain, and then I moved on to the senior national team. So I guess that's how it all began for me, and it all just began out of fun. And I wasn't training myself to be a football player. I was mostly into track and field, and I was still doing track and field till 2 years back. I was doing track and field and football both side by side. But yeah, that's how it all began, and it's just continuing from there.
Wow, that is an inspiring story. As 11-year-old, I can only imagine that.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so that leads me on well to my next question. From that first tournament to playing in the senior national team, can you give us a little bit of a journey? Because I know that when you were growing into the world of football in India, we didn't have a lot of women academies and all. So, can you give us
Right.
your journey, whether your club teams or college teams that you played for?
So how it started initially was I studied in Tagore International School East of Kailash, and we had a boys football team there. We did not have a girls football team, but like we had girls team for basketball, we had it for volleyball, and we had it for track and field. And I used to play for like the Delhi state team, for the Indian national team, but then the school team never had a team. And I grew up, I always played with boys. I grew up playing in the middle of like so many boys, and like, that's how I could develop my skills and like, learn to be tough. But when I was in grade ninth, that was when Subroto Cup was starting for women. So our school received like an invitation, like my father got to know. And my father was also the coach of the boys school team. So my father and I were just talking with like the physical education teacher there. And then we just came up with the idea of like, let's make a women's football team. And it was me, and then there was like two more girls. They had interest in football and like they knew a bit about it. And then we got the volleyball and the basketball players and the track and field girls. And then we made the team. We went on to play the first edition of Subroto Cup. And then I went on to do my undergraduation from Jesus and Mary College in the University of Delhi. And Jesus and Mary College was like one of the colleges known for like one of the best teams in women's football in Delhi University. So I did my undergraduation from there, and I played for the University of Delhi as well, and I played for the state team. And then all along I was playing for my state team as well, and I was representing the national team as well. But for me, being a woman athlete in the country like India, and also like in being a woman athlete in New Delhi was quite different, because it was always about me proving a point to people that I could do it. So it was quite different, and I was very fortunate to have a family that supported me. So I guess that has been like my entire story all along the way. So I was constantly involved, but yeah, the number of tournaments that were there were very less, because the school tournaments also used to be one around the year. So like the whole year we used to wait for like one tournament that would happen. This is how like my entire career, or like my entire journey till now has been like in brief.
Yeah, and that's quite cool because without academies and without the structure of football, you still manage to reach the top at such a young age. So that's quite cool.
Right,
All
right,
right. Yeah. So the next question I have for you is from one of my followers. And
right.
I think you already answered this slightly with the first question, but what made you choose football when compared to the other sports?
I would say football as a decision for me to to take it professionally came naturally, considering that I was exposed to the national team and international matches and that kind of environment and atmosphere at a younger age as compared to track and field. Had I been exposed to that kind of atmosphere in track and field, maybe I wouldn't have been a professional football player at the moment. So I guess that was one of the major reasons why I took the game professionally, because it started as like a hobby and like an interest. So I guess that is one of the things that made me choose football over anything else, or like over track and field. And I saw what it was like to wear the country's flag and like, the country badge in your chest and like represent like like billions of people, then what it felt like, I was like, this is what I want to do.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting. Okay, with that, we move on to the next question. Can you try and describe how it felt to represent your country and then go on to captain the country?
Like my first ever national tournament happened when I was U14, and the first time I still remember when I got the national team jerseys for the first time, and the team was traveling to Sri Lanka. So we were in Lucknow, and the team traveled to Delhi for like 2 days before traveling to Sri Lanka. And I remember the moment I received the national team jersey, I remember I called my parents. I was like, you have to come and see me. Like, I've got the national team jersey, and like, it feels so amazing. I'm going to be playing for the country. You have no idea what it feels like. You have to come and see me. You have to come and see me in the national team jersey. And I can still remember how happy they were to see me. When we reached Sri Lanka, like, I felt so important, and I felt like a VIP. And like, first time when I stepped out on the field and I was singing the national anthem, there were shivers all down my bones. I had goosebumps, and to be able to sing the national anthem in front of thousands of people, it's like a dream come true. It was like one feeling that I wanted to experience over and over again. And then I moved to U16, and then the U19, I was the captain of the national team. It's like you do not actually feel like the captain of the team till the time you have the captain's band. But I remember I walked out, it was in Jordan when we had gone for AFC qualifiers. We were walking out of the tunnel and the FIFA anthem was playing. And then we stood in the lines, and then we sang the national anthem. And then there are still times when I still cry on the field when I'm singing the national anthem, because it just makes me so emotional. So I guess it was a great, great feeling. Something very difficult to put into words, because there are no words that have ever been created to describe feelings like these. And yeah, the feeling is incredible. It's incredible.
All right. That's one of the reasons why I framed it in such a way that I included, can you try to explain? Because I knew it was a little difficult. All right. With that, we move into the second section that I call Remontada. And this is called
Right.
Remontada because it's all about comeback stories and mental health in football. And since
Right.
you're currently pursuing a sports psychology course, I would get a lot from you in this section. So the first question in this section is, what challenges did you face to get from being a young girl who was playing football to now?
Challenges, if I try to number, there are so many. It was, first of all, being a woman athlete, and then a woman athlete who wanted to play football, and then being a girl in the middle of all the boys that used to play, and then being a girl who people call having unrealistic dreams in a country like India, or like coming from New Delhi when I should have been focusing totally on academics. I guess when I look back at it, there were so many obstacles, because I still remember like there were times when I had to convince my teachers, I had to convince my friends, and I had to convince my extended family members. The only thing that I would always hear is like, there's no point, you're wasting your time. People used to tell me like, we don't even know if a women's football team exists, and like, there's no future, what are you going to do, you're not going to make money out of it. And like, these were the things that I always grew up listening to. But my parents, my brother and my sister were like the only people who would support me, who would show that faith in me, and like, who would show me like the positive side of it, to go out every day, work hard and make it happen. But being able to go on the field and try to prove a point every day. So I guess that has been like, one of the major struggles that has been there. Being thrown in the middle of all the negativity, the pessimism, when people always just like told you that you're a woman, like, at the end you have to get married, and like, you have to look after your family. It just gets so difficult when you have people constantly telling you and giving you reasons of why you shouldn't do it, instead of telling you why you should actually take it. Also, there were, like I told you, like I was an 11-year-old who played in U19. So there were like a lot of times that there was jealousy from like senior players. There were also times when people just wanted to injure me, or like, people just wanted to hit me because I was a young one, and like they could not see me like succeed, or like as a very young player. So I guess there were a lot of struggles that happened, and like, probably they made me what I am today.
All right, that's quite interesting, because as someone who has gone through football, always being encouraged, you never see that side of it. All right. So in every episode, I ask the other professionals, do they think mental health is important? And the answer is always yes. But since you're doing a sports psychology course, I want to know, can you give us a better insight into why is it important?
Definitely, for sure. So like, I guess even and like everybody knows that Me personally, I've been a believer of how important mental health is in sports and like in general. Because for me, mental health can hinder us from taking the right decisions. Personal examples, like I remember when it was my debut for the senior national team. It was South Asian Games. The opening match, I was there in the first 11, the only 18-year-old with all the players who were like 22 and above. And I still remember how nervous I felt, how anxious I felt. And even though there were a lot of things that I could have done better, sometimes I couldn't even do like the simplest of things of receiving a pass because I was so nervous and I was so anxious. And now when I look back at it and I think that only if I would have had somebody to talk to at that moment, maybe my performance and like maybe the decisions that I took in the field would have been very different. My mind was so clouded with doubts on myself of whether I would be able to do it or not do it, that I was totally blinded to this side of what my capabilities are and what my advantages were and like what my strengths were as a player. This is usually what happens, that when our mind is clouded with so much of doubt and like so much of negativity or like so much that is not related to the task at hand, it usually distracts us from making the better decisions and understanding at present of what the situation requires. And also, it's not only just for sports, but like in general, usually there's a label of people calling each other mad and crazy just because they want to go to a psychologist, which drives me crazy, because you would not go to a psychologist only if you feel like you have a mental disorder, but like also when you are stressed about something. We reach a mental block where we cannot think and where we want somebody to knock on our heads and be like, like, this is where you are and this is what the situation requires. In sports, there are a lot more pressure of having the crowd, of having expectations, of having to do the wrong pass and your team concedes a goal, or like, you lose out on a point.
All right, that's very interesting. And it leads me on well to my next question. What do you do that helps you recover from, like you were mentioning, a bad performance, a bad pass? So, what do you do that helps you recover and go into the next game with a good mindset?
So there are various things that I do. First of all, making a wrong pass or missing a goal, it's all a part of the game. But the mistakes that you've done now, it's important that you do not do those mistakes and you try to do them better in the next game. For me, it's very important to work better on my weaknesses and to work better on like the mistakes that have happened and to not repeat them over again. But when I am too sad, or like when I feel like, maybe I could have done it better, usually I listen to songs, or like I have someone to talk to. Also, I love reading a lot, so I read. So those are like some of the things that I do.
All right. So, you're not a believer in forgetting the mistakes and starting anew. You believe in working on those mistakes.
I guess as a player, like through my experience, it's very important to work through your mistakes and like, work on them and see that as a learning opportunity rather than beating yourself up.
All right, all right. Okay, with that, we end the second section and we move on to the next section that I call halftime tactics. This section talks about the other side of football. So, my first question to you is, how important do you think it is for players and footballers in general to build up their digital presence?
For players and like in general for women athletes as well, it's very important, because I feel like now people live on social media, and for us to be able to create the awareness as women athletes, what we are capable of and how an athlete or like a sports person is like working hard and like, what are they working and what are their goals. It's very important to have the social media appearance, because that is one medium through which you can reach out to millions of people to have an understanding and to inspire them to take up the sport and to be motivated to do something.
All right. And since you are doing a sports psychology course, how important is it for young footballers to not believe everything they see on social media? Because social media has a tendency of showing only the good parts of things.
I guess that's a very good question, because a lot of times when we see people, they tend to live in like a fantasy world and they try to copy everything that they see on social media. But like, at the end, when all of that is happening, people tend to build up unrealistic expectations of themselves. And when those unrealistic expectations are not fulfilled, people tend to get really hurt, and like, that tends to demotivate them and discourage them, because social media does not show you the reality at all times. It shows you what people want to see of themselves. When people try to define themselves negatively on the basis of what they see is what upsets me. Like, that how social media, which could be such a good platform for people to know and to share a lot of things, has become a platform where people define themselves negatively. They try to judge the other people who are, and even the people who are being realistic and actually themselves on social media can come under the tag of being fake.
All right, that's a very interesting insight. Okay, with that, we end the halftime tactics section and we move into the next section that I call recovering possession.
That's the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you got some value from watching this video. If you did, make sure you hit the like button and share it to someone else who could also get some value. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification icon so that you get an update when I post the second part of this video. In the meantime, you can watch the previous episodes that I did, especially the aforementioned one with Keen Lewis.